Scientists hate Plato. Why is that? It's because Plato's theory of existence is predicated on eternal and necessary forms, perfect and immutable. Plato believed in an immaterial domain of forms, outside space and time. Science absolutely refuses to accept the existence of eternal and necessary entities. Why? Because they contradict science, which is predicated on temporal and contingent entities. Science refuses to accept the existence of an eternal and necessary singularity. It doesn't understand the concept of a singularity. That's where all ideas concerning space, time and matter collapse. Science rejected Descartes because he spoke of unextended thinking substance, mind. Science rejected Leibniz because he spoke of unextended monadic minds. As soon as you associate singularities with minds, science goes into meltdown. Science, the standard bearer of materialism, cannot abide any thought of mind being real. Singularities are inaccessible to the senses. They are unobservable. Science, the standard bearer of empiricism, cannot abide any suggestion of a non-sensory reality. If Plato is right, science is wrong. If Descartes is right, science is wrong. If Leibniz is right, science is wrong. If singularities are real, science is wrong. Don't you think that every scientist should be asked to put it in writing why Plato, Descartes and Leibniz, three of the greatest geniuses of all time, are wrong, and they, mediocre scientists, are right? That would be most interesting, don't you think? John Kenneth Galbraith said, "The real accomplishment of modern science and technology consists in taking ordinary men, informing them narrowly and deeply and then, through appropriate organization, arranging to have their knowledge combined with that of other specialized but equally ordinary men. This dispenses with the need for genius. The resulting performance, though less inspiring, is far more predictable. We now have intellectual pygmies believing that they are smarter than the greatest human thinkers of all time." Ever heard of the Ortega hypothesis? Wikipedia says, the Ortega hypothesis holds that average or mediocre scientists contribute substantially to the advancement of science. According to this hypothesis, scientific progress occurs mainly by the accumulation of a mass of modest, narrowly specialized intellectual contributions. Do you believe that average, mediocre scientists are really those equipped to explain what reality is? Then you clearly detest geniuses. Funny, that. Ortega said, "The specialist serves as a striking concrete example of the species, making clear to us the radical nature of the novelty. For, previously, men could be divided simply into the learned and the ignorant, those more or less the one, and those more or less the other. But your specialist cannot be brought in under either of these two categories. He is not learned, for he is formally ignorant of all that does not enter into his speciality, but neither is he ignorant, because he is a scientist, and knows very well his own tiny portion of the universe. We shall have to say that he is a learned ignoramus, which is a very serious matter, as it implies that he is a person who is ignorant, not in the fashion of the ignorant man, but within the petulance of one who is learned in his own special line. This is the whole problem. Scientists are learned ignoramuses, who believe that their narrow, pedestrian, mediocre thinking is superior to that of the smartest humans in history. Do you reckon they're right? Or are they actively obstructing human intellectual evolution? Ortega said, the specialist, is one who, out of all that has to be known in order to be a man of judgment, is only acquainted with one science, and even of that one only knows the small corner in which he is an active investigator. He even proclaims it as a virtue that he takes no cognizance of what lies outside the narrow territory specially cultivated by himself, and gives the name of dilettantism to any curiosity for the general scheme of knowledge. Our world is now ruled by specialists, who believe that their narrow knowledge renders them superior to the finest minds of all time. Ortega said, "The most immediate result of this unbalanced specialization has been that today, when there are more scientists than ever, there are much less cultured men than, for example, about 1750. And the worst is that with these turnspits of science not even the real progress of science itself is assured. For science needs from time to time, as a necessary regulator of its own advance, a labor of reconstitution, and, as I have said, this demands an effort towards unification, which grows more and more difficult, involving, as it does, ever vaster regions of the world of knowledge. Newton was able to found his system of physics without knowing much philosophy, but Einstein needed to saturate himself with Kant and Mach before he could reach his own keen synthesis. Kant and Mach. The names are mere symbols of the enormous mass of philosophic and psychological thought which has influenced Einstein. Scientists these days would never reference philosophers in their work. In fact, they can't wait to rubbish philosophy. Ortega said, "It is necessary to insist upon this extraordinary but undeniable fact. Experimental science has progressed thanks in great part to the work of men astoundingly mediocre, and even less than mediocre. That is to say, modern science, the root and symbol of our actual civilization, finds a place for the intellectually commonplace man and allows him to work therein with success. It's chilling that science is now defined by the intellectually commonplace. That's why all great, visionary thinking has vanished from science." Ortega said, "No one knows toward what center human things are going to gravitate in the near future, and hence the life of the world has become scandalously provisional. Science is literally predicated on the provisional." Ortega said, "He will be a wise man who puts no trust in all that is proclaimed, upheld, essayed, and lauded at the present day. All that will disappear as quickly as it came. Science, full of provisional hypotheses, will never deliver certainty regarding the nature of existence. Only mathematics can accomplish that." Actually, one scientist, a true scientific genius, was keen on Plato. Quantum mechanics pioneer Werner Heisenberg said, "I think that modern physics has definitely decided in favor of Plato. In fact, the smallest units of matter are not physical objects in the ordinary sense. They are forms, ideas which can be expressed unambiguously only in mathematical language. But how many mediocre scientists are going to listen to a genius such as Heisenberg? Science fanboys are just pedestrian mediocrities, trolling those that think on a much bigger canvas. Science is now unable to present a grand vision of reality. It has ceased to produce geniuses.